Hi, it's Shot, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Photoshop retouching bundle for the FX panel. One info in advance, I won't be talking about retouching techniques in detail. This is more about what's inside the retouching bundle, the individual presets and the amazing possibilities they bring and how you can make use of them. Let's get right into it. I already installed the FX panel for Photoshop. When I click on the icon, we see that there are no presets loaded yet. I'm going to click on the logo to open the quick menu and add bundle. By now, as you can see, we already have a bunch of different presets and bundles, but this is about the retouching bundle, so I'm going to select that and hit open. Instantly, all 10 presets are being loaded into the FX panel. Don't be fooled by the number 10, there's a lot more behind those presets than it looks at first glance. But let's take a look at some general functions and behaviors of the FX panel first. Currently we are in the list view. Every single preset is listed as a single item. You can select it, you can mark it as a favorite, you can apply the preset, and you can open the preset options. You can display the favorites by selecting it from the quick finder. Here they are. And if we would have some more presets, let me just quickly add some more. For instance, the Essentials bundle and maybe my favorite looks. Hit open. You can use the quick finder to specify which sorts of presets you want to see. We have 16 looks for now, 1 effect, 13 time savers. You can also select individual bundles here, but let's focus on the retouching presets. Furthermore, we have an image view. That's a way to display the presets more visually. By hovering on one of those presets, you can decide if you want to apply a preset or open the preset options. You can also adjust the panel's width. So if you have a second display, you could put the FX panel there on full screen and see those beautiful preview images. And of course, you can freely move the panel within Photoshop, but personally I prefer to dock or attach the panel to the side here, so it's always available for me and I can use the full height, which I definitely will need as soon as I enter the preset options. I'm going to introduce every single preset now, explaining the purposes and options, and I'm starting with the preset New Layer. New Layer may sound unspectacular at first, and indeed when I hit the Create button, no big surprises, a new layer has been created. So what's the advantage compared to simply clicking on the New Layer button here? For that, let's open the preset options by hitting this icon here. In general, we have basic options here. And then we have so-called accordions. When you click on an accordion, more options become visible. That's how we manage to put lots of functionalities inside a preset while keeping it compact and clear. By the way, double-clicking on an accordion will open or close every element within the preset options. You can scroll, and if you need even more space, you can hide the preview image by clicking on this hidden button here. Well, basically I can change both blending mode and opacity for the layer. I can also define whether the layer will be created above or below the currently selected layer. So let's select layer 2, and if I choose below, the layer will be created below. If I choose above, the layer will be created above, obviously. The new layer preset is exciting in combination with other options. In the layer settings sections, I can rename the layer and assign a color by clicking on this icon here. Let's name the layer green. We'll make it easy. I can protect the layer. Let's say we want to lock the position so I won't be able to accidentally move the layer. And I can activate an automatic numeration by enabling the count layers option. Let's try out. Every single new layer is locked, green, and has its own number. When I delete all layers and create a new one using the preset, the numeration will continue where I left off. If you don't want that, you can easily reset the counter by clicking on this icon. And now we're back at 1. The group settings allow you to add a new layer into a group. You can define the name and the color for the group if you want. By the way, if you select the first icon, it means that there will be no color on the group. I can state that the group won't be added to another group, but on top of that group. Let me show you. Let's deactivate no subgroup first and create a group and maybe some layers within that group. And if I hit new layer, the new group will be created right within this group. Let's just delete that for a second. If I activate no subgroup and create another group, it will be created above my group. And then we have an option called new or dedicated group. Dedicated means every layer I create will be added to the same group. The group I defined here with that specific name. Let's rename that to Retouch. Create that preset. It's here. And no matter where I am in the layer hierarchy, the new layer will be always created in that specific dedicated group. I can also move this group, close it. Still, a new layer will be created in that group. Let's delete that. Next, layer mask. I can instantly add a layer mask to my new layer. It can be either black or white. Let's see. There it is. But I can also add a luminance mask to that layer. Let's take a look at the range. We have highlights, we have midtones, we have skin tones, we have the RGB channels. I can also define my own color range. Let's select highlights, create it. And when I take a look at the layer mask by holding Alt key and clicking on the layer mask, we see that only the highlights from the image have been selected. And now I could take a brush and paint on that specific range. Another huge advantage is the ability to select a tool. If I enable that, different Photoshop tools appear for me to select. For instance, brush, healing brush, or clone stamp. The nice part about this tool selection is that I can specify a tool preset. Let's say I want to select a brush, let's see, black 250 pixels, and if I create, probably should deactivate the mask. If I create another empty layer, the brush is automatically selected and I can start editing. Well, that's an overview of the functions and options for the new layer preset. But the most important and powerful function for all presets in the FX panel is the ability to save those different states with all parameters and options as individual custom presets. Let me show you. As you can see, we already included some custom presets you can use. But of course you can and you should create your own custom preset. Let's start with the one that's already built into the new layer preset. If I click on that icon, let me just open the tools. If I click on the icon, you can actually see how the parameters change. And if I apply, let's say this one, a new layer will be created in a dedicated retouching group. The healing brush is automatically selected. And I can immediately start retouching non-destructively on a new layer since current and below is selected. If I activate the Add Node Custom preset, let's zoom out, and apply it, I get a red pencil and could start creating notes for my upcoming retouch. I could say, want to clean that up a little bit, have to remove this here, adjust this here. I could also create another note, maybe with a green pencil, and say this color here needs to match this color here needs to be adjusted. See how versatile one single preset can be, And adding custom presets is as simple as clicking on this plus icon, double click to rename it, and that's it. If you need to adjust a custom preset, change a parameter, you see the selection disappears, and now you hold the Shift key and click on that button, and that's it. If you want to delete a custom preset, hold the Alt key, click on that button, and it's gone. You see, the FX panel and the retouching presets are highly customizable. They are meant to be time savers, allowing you to quickly and efficiently improve your workflow. While many other Photoshop panels or actions or scripts force you to use predefined settings, the FX panel allows you to adjust its functions to your needs. And once you've set up your own custom presets, you don't have to exit preset options anymore. Let me show you. Back in the list view, you see those little white triangles in the right bottom corner. They indicate custom presets. But to make those custom presets accessible right from the list view, we have to change the mode. You can either open the panel settings and navigate to list view and activate the show custom preset option. I'm going to deactivate it because I want to show you a quick way of doing that. So let's get back to the list view. If I hold the Shift key, you see the icon changes here, and I click on a preset that has custom presets. A list will open containing all custom presets for that individual preset, and now that I have changed the mode, I just have to simply select the preset and the list will automatically appear. All I need to do is now double click on any of those custom presets and they will be created. Check layers, sometimes also referred to as analyze layers, help layers, or false colors, help you visualizing certain areas in an image, such as imperfections or inconsistencies. Let's take a look and hit the Create button. A new check layer group has been created, and inside that group there are 9 different adjustment and color layers. Let me also open the preset options, and you see that we can select or deselect every one of those single check layers. Let's walk through those individual layers first. Invert is pretty obvious. It's an adjustment layer that inverts your image. It is particularly useful in combination with other layers. The solar curve is one of the most important check layers. Let's zoom into that picture and look at the sky. To the naked eye, this may look pretty okay, but if I turn on the solar curve, suddenly a lot of sensor dust becomes visible, even here. We can increase that by turning on the contrast or even combine it with the invert layer. And because the solar curve exaggerates the differences in your picture, it's definitely easier to find that spots, sensor dusts, or blemishes that might not be visible to the naked eye. Furthermore, you can change the image to black and white, maybe combine it with contrast. Some of the sensor dust becomes visible as well. Let's change the image and apply another check layers. But before that, we can change the settings for the group. I want the group to be open once I've applied the presets. So deactivate the close group option. And here we go. Now the group is open and I can continue with my layers. The channel mixer can be used to exaggerate all differences in skin tones. It is useful for blemishes or spots on the skin that might not be visible to the naked eye. See how some parts really pop up? If I open the properties, I can use both green and a red slider to adjust certain areas. In this area, for instance, I see those spots, but this spot here is pretty dark. So let me adjust the red slider, and now I can see it a lot better. Furthermore, we have a layer called neutral color, and for that I'm going to apply the check layers to that image. Neutral color means you see black in brackets at the end. It means a 50% neutral gray color tone will be displayed black in an image. If we take a look at the clouds, we see that certain parts of those clouds turn black or almost black. So that's definitely an area that's getting close to 50% neutral gray. Next, increase saturation. For that, let's take a look at this picture and create a preset. Increased saturation will make pixels visible that contain even only 1% of color and could be mistaken for neutral color tones. In this case, I would think the court is neutral gray tone and the tennis net probably very dark or black. Once I activate the increased saturation layer, you quickly realize that there are some greens and yellow color tones in that court, and the net having some blue parts in it as well. Furthermore, I'm able to display hues on either black or gray. What does that mean? Everything that's white, gray, or black will be displayed as pure black, allowing color hues to really stick out. Same with gray. Everything that's white, gray, or black will be displayed as 50% gray. That was an overview of the 9 check layers. Let's take a look at the preset options. First of all, you can define a name and a color for every single check layer. So if our captions are not meaningful enough, feel free to rename them. Some check layers also have additional options. You can adjust the intensity of the contrast, or you can predefine the sliders from the channel mixer. In the group settings, you can specify if a group should be created in the first place and where it should be located. Let's turn that off. And of course, you can decide which check layer should be included. I can deselect everything except for, let's say, the channel mixer. Let's close this and apply it. And there you go. As usual, you can create custom presets. We already included a couple ones like check layers for color control or a visual aid layer for skin. And for those of you who couldn't keep up, for every preset there is an info section, and within that section you'll find a link to our online documentation for this exact preset. And here's everything you need to know about the check layer preset, a description of the purpose for every single check layer, additional settings, etc. So if you ever forget how a preset works or what certain options mean, click on the help link and read all about it here. Match color is a preset that allows you to match 2 different hues based on mathematical calculations. In this case, the color of the hand and the palm differ from the underarm. This has more reds and magenta in it, while the arm tends more towards yellow and orange. When I select the match color preset and hit the create button, the color picker opens, asking me to set the first color. By default, the first color is the color you're going to use as the reference, or in other words, the good color, the color you want. So let's capture this orange hue and press OK. Another color picker opens, and this time we're going to select the color we want to change. That's this color here. Confirm with OK, and the FX panel automatically calculates the differences and generates a new group match color with a mask. Now I have to paint on the areas I want to adjust. Let me just speed this up. I select the background layer and go to select subject. And now I can reselect the group mask, select a soft brush, and start uncovering those areas that are too red. For me, this looks a bit too yellowish now, so I can just simply decrease the opacity of the whole group, and suddenly we get a pretty accurate color correction. Let's take a closer look how this preset works. I created 2 different color fields here, and let's just repeat the preset. Select this color first, press OK. Select this color second, confirm. Create a selection of this second color field and apply it to the group mask. There it is. So the hues match. What doesn't match is the brightness and the contrast. This field is distinctly darker than this one, and that's a good thing. Why? Because the original color was darker too. And if I want to adjust, let's say skin tones, you don't want to change the brightness, otherwise your model starts looking weird. But what we also included in that match color folder, besides the hue saturation layer, is a curves adjustment layer. So if you want to adjust the brightness or contrast, you can do that. You can also change the saturation of the adjustment layer if you need to adjust that too. And by doing that, I get a pretty accurate result. Let's see how we can use that in another example. I'm going to open the preset options. Here you can define whether the first or the second color you pick should be the reference. We can change that to second. We have group settings where you can open or close the group after it has been created. And you can also change the name and color for that group. But more importantly, you can automatically select the brush with predefined tool presets. So we can start painting on a group right after it has been created. That's a big time saver. Let's take a look at this golden ball here. The color doesn't actually fit into the whole color concept of this image. It's too yellowish, almost green, especially the spot right here. I want to adopt the golden colors from the pillows. Remember, I already switched the reference color to second, so I'm going to start with the color I want to replace. That's this green one here. Confirm with OK. And select a more suitable color, like over here. Since my brush is already selected, I can start painting right on that ball. See how nicely those colors are being adjusted. I can tweak that with the opacity. It looks way better. Same here, the lips have a nice red color while the belt tends towards orange. So I would want to adjust that belt. Let's switch back to first color as a reference, hit create. And what this preset automatically does, it selects the color picker and changes the sample size to 31 by 31 pixels, which is a good average for skin tones. Well, in this case, when I try to select the red of her lips, it seems like the color picker includes too much of the environment. So I'm going to change that to 5 by 5 pixels, and now my reading is much more accurate. In other words, the sampling size always depends on what you're actually selecting. Just keep that in mind. I confirm that. Select the orange hue. Actually, we can switch back to 31 by 31 and try that. Confirm. And now paint on the belt real quick to adjust the color. I can also select the curves adjustment layer and tweak the contrast as well. Perfect. As usual, if you have any questions regarding this preset, go to the info section and click on the help link. This will direct you to the documentation website for that preset where everything is explained in detail. If those articles help you, please hit the like button. And if they don't, click on dislike. That helps us understand where we're good and where we have to improve. The elongation preset stretches pre-selected areas in your picture. If I go and try to create the preset without a selection, I get an error message telling me that a selection is required. For that, I select the rectangle marquee tool, and the important part is that there's no feathering, so make sure this value is set to 0 pixels. And now I can make a selection of the part I want to stretch. In this case, I'm going to select the neck. Open the preset options, set it to vertically, and click Create. Here's before and after. Of course, there are some more options here. On the one hand, I can adjust the scale for the elongation. Let's delete this one, bring this to max, make a selection again, and try again. Well, that's a huge neck. Let's delete that too. In the More Options section, you can define how to deal with the document alignment and the canvas size. For now, the alignment is set to top, meaning the area here will be pushed down by the parts of the elongated elements, hence out of sight. I can change that and set the alignment to bottom. Let's make another quick selection. Now it's been pushed up instead of down. Let's set this back to a slightly more realistic value and delete this. Or I can activate the Extend Canvas option. And if we take a look at the document's dimension, the image is 1200 by 1800. Let's do one more stretching. Set Create. You can see the canvas size has been increased to 1817, hence no pixels got lost. Furthermore, we have two methods available for stretching. We have the regular scaling and the content-aware scaling. Content-aware scaling is especially useful if there's structure in the background, for instance, those buildings here. So if I want to stretch the Eiffel Tower for whatever reason, don't ask, content-aware scaling would be the better choice. Look at the buildings behind the Eiffel Tower. They are practically identical while the Eiffel Tower has grown. But how to deal with images where you want to elongate certain areas both vertically and horizontally? First of all, let me tell you a little bit more about proper selection. What you don't want to do is, in this case, you don't want to select parts that are not relevant. If I select this part, the foot becomes huge. Let me show you. Nobody wants that. So let's step back. We want to keep the size of her feet and only stretch the legs. That means the selection you take is essential for the authenticity of this effect. As much fun as this preset is, it leads to exaggeration. It's not meant to be used for creating unrealistic huge bodies. It's meant to be used very subtly, maybe because perspective was unflattering and you need to correct that. But then again, it's Photoshop, so do whatever you want. Okay, let's select this leg here. And I think 15 is enough. Deactivate Extend Canvas and click Create. Let's see. Okay, let's select this area here. And remember to not select the foot, so maybe until here. Set this to maybe 18 and horizontally. Set this back to scale, by the way, and press OK. And when we zoom out, you realize that not only the leg, but also the buttocks and some part of this area here were stretched as well. That's why I'm going to create a layer mask. Hold the Alt key, click on the layer mask icon. Now I get a black mask. Select a white brush, and now I can really just paint over the areas I want to have. I can merge those two layers, and that's how I would stretch certain areas both ways. As usual, we provide custom presets, but you can create your own if you like. And if you have any questions about the elongation preset, if you need any written instructions, go to the info section, click on the help link, and here you find everything you need to know. Dodge and burn is a very popular technique, and there are so many different ways people are using it all over the world. That's why you'll find two presets devoted to dodge and burn, once for curves and once for layers. Let's take a closer look at the dodge and burn layers. When I hit the Create button, a new layer will be created. This layer is filled with neutral 50% gray in blending mode soft light, and the burn tool was automatically selected. So now I can immediately start burning, or if I press the Alt key, dodging my image. When I open the preset options, I can switch to an empty layer, and instead of the dodge and burn tool, I would rather select a brush. And with our retouching bundle, you get over 50 predefined tool presets you can simply choose from. In this case, black 10% size, 50% hardness, 10% opacity, and 1% flow seems to be the right fit. And if I create the preset now, instead of the gray layer, we get an empty layer with our predefined brush. And I can start dodging and burning. You also find the group settings, where you can add the dodge and burn layer directly to a group. Similar to the new layer preset, you can define whether a new group will be created or if the dodge and burn layers should be added to the same group, no matter where I'm currently in the layer hierarchy. Even if I move this dodge and burn folder, every new dodge and burn layer will find its way in here. In order to save you some time, we already created a couple of custom presets. And as already mentioned, you can access those custom presets directly from the list view by holding the Shift key and clicking on any preset with custom presets. A list appears, and now you can simply double-click on any of those custom presets, and it will be applied and created. A lot of retouchers prefer the dodge and burn technique with curves instead of layers. That's why we have a separate preset for that. Let me open the preset options and explain what options we have here. Basically, you can choose whether we want to create a dodge or a burn curve or both simultaneously. Naturally, those curves have a layer mask on which you're going to do the retouching. And with these options, you can define if the layer mask should be attached to the actual curves adjustment layer, or if you want to put the curves into a group and attach the mask to that group. Let me show you the difference. When I apply this preset, we get two adjustment layers for dodge and for burn. Both adjustment layers have an individual layer mask attached. If I switch to group and apply the preset again, we end up having groups, each for dodge and burn, and those groups have their own masks. So what's the difference? You may have realized as soon as I switched to group, another option appeared, saturation. And if this option is active and I open my group right here, additionally to the curves adjustment layer, you'll find a hue and saturation adjustment layer. For some retouchers, this is the only way to go. You can even specify the value for the saturation in this section right here, and also define a name and a color if you want. To sum it up, you can either create a layer mask on an adjustment layer or to a group. Regardless of that, you can set intensity for both dodge and burn curves. Let's just do one with a little bit more intensity, say 3, switch to layer, and create that. So when I now compare this curve with this curve, you'll see that there's slightly a difference. Furthermore, you can decide if you want to put your dodge and burn curves into a group, and if that should be a new or a dedicated group. You can automatically select a tool. In this case, it's limited to a brush since you're going to work on a layer mask anyways. And again, there are custom presets. Let me quickly delete everything. If you select one of those custom presets, the parameters in the preset option change and you can apply them. New group always creates a new group no matter how many groups there already are. And the dedicated custom presets will put either an adjustment layer or a group into the same dedicated group. This allows you to even combine dodge and burn curves with dodge and burn layers. I switch back to list view and activate the custom preset mode by holding the Shift key and clicking on a preset. Now I can add both curves and layers into the same group, keeping my document tidy and clear. Frequency separation is a popular retouching technique in which an image is split into frequencies, high and low. The low frequency contains the most color information. It's basically a blurred image. The high frequency has all the details. And frequency separation enables you to edit these areas independently. For that, there are different methods available for the frequency separation. Let's open the preset options, and right here you can choose from different blur methods like Gaussian blur, median, or surface blur depending on what you want to do. Let's start with the Gaussian blur and click Create. The dialog pops up asking me for a proper value. I'm going to leave that for now. And now we see the two different frequencies on separate layers. Those of you who are familiar with frequency separation probably realized that I didn't have to specify whether the image is an 8 or 16-bit, which is relevant for this technique. That's because the FX panel knows your image properties and automatically chooses the appropriate values. Another thing that might have caught your attention is the name of the group. The FX panel added the used parameters into the layer name combined with the abbreviation for the blur. If you open the group settings, you find that option here and can deactivate that if you want, but it's pretty useful and helps you to understand what you've been doing once you open your document again. When we open the layer settings, you can activate the option to protect the original frequencies. Let's do that. Click Create, Confirm. We now have a copy of both frequencies clipped to the original ones, and the original layer is locked, so I'm not even able to edit it. So I work on my duplicates and have a reference if I want to undo parts of my editing, for instance with a layer mask. You can also tell the FX panel to automatically select a tool after the frequency separation. For instance, the mixer brush, which can be used to adjust colors, or the stamp tool. You can also define whether one of the frequencies or the group should be selected. Let's say low frequency. I delete everything so far, and let's select another method, median maybe. Click Create. Set the radius to maybe 20. Confirm with OK. And now the editable low frequency was selected. I have my clone stamp tool, and I can immediately start retouching, for instance, removing this fold here. Personally, I like to combine the frequency separation with a new layer. I'm going to add the layer into a dedicated group, name that Color Correction, blending mode normal, 100% opacity, that's fine, and click Create. So every time I do that, a new layer will be created between my low and my high frequency. So I can select the color and start doing my improvements. Let's go back to frequency separation. And by the way, you can double click on a preset to open the preset options and a right click to exit the options. So you don't always have to click on this button here. As usual, we have custom presets, which you can select with a click on that icon, or directly from the list view by holding the Shift key. A list appears, and with a double click, I can apply that custom preset. If there are any more questions regarding the frequency separation preset, navigate to Info, click on the Help link, and here you'll find all you need to know about the frequency separation presets, the options, the methods, and their abbreviations. Another popular retouching technique for smoothing skin areas is the inverted high pass. When I create this preset, the high pass dialog opens and I'm being asked to enter a value, let's say 10 pixels. And when I press OK, the equivalent blur will be automatically calculated and applied, and I can instantly start retouching with my predefined brush. But let's take a closer look at the preset options. First, you can define the default high pass value with the slider. You can also deactivate the dialog, so the default value will be applied without even asking, but I highly suggest you don't. It's really important to individually adjust those settings depending on your image. We have predefined blur factors 1 to 4 and 1 to 3, meaning if your high pass value is 12, the blur would be 3 pixels with a factor 4 to 1 and 4 pixels with a factor 1 to 3. Naturally, you can define the blur manually. Just select custom over here and the blur dialog will open right after the high pass dialog. And same here, if you take a look at the layer, you realize the parameters have been added to the layer name. If you open the layer settings, you find the respective option here. This allows you to see what you actually did, especially at a later date. As usual, you can select a tool afterwards and define a preset for that. And of course, you can create a custom preset with an inverted high pass that suits your needs. Well, for this image, we already did some retouching, some frequency separation, dodge and burn layers, and a color correction. And now you want to maybe apply a camera raw look. But for the camera raw filter to work, you need to merge all your edits to one single layer. And for that purpose, we created the merge layer preset. Let's open the preset options. And here you'll find different methods for the different applications like merge visible, flatten image, or select layers. You can convert the newly created layer into a smart object if you want. I highly recommend you do. Then we have the layer settings where you can define the name and the color, blending mode and opacity. You can attach a layer mask, black or white, and you can protect the layer, let's say lock the position. Let's try that out. A new layer was created as a smart object, red labeled and locked. Perfect. Let's delete that for now. What we also have is a filter section. And here I can choose if I want to apply a filter on my new layer. Filter gallery, camera raw filter, or liquify. Let's do that. In the background, the FX panel generated a merged copy of my document, created a smart object, and opened the liquify filter. Now I can liquify my image. Adjust certain areas because, let's say, I forgot to do that in the first place before I started retouching the image. Press OK. And you see the new layer with the applied smart filter. And of course, you can create your own custom presets. We already added some that may be useful for you, like flatten image. So everything is merged to the background layer. Or camera raw filter, where I can adjust the colors and create a look on my separate independent layer. And as usual, those custom presets are available right from the list view. As soon as you switch the mode by holding the Shift key and clicking on any of those presets with custom presets. I have a document where I did some retouching, applied some dodge and burn curves at a frequency separation, and merged all those layers into a smart object with the merge layers preset and edited it with the liquify filter. I also added a look on top. I disabled the layer for a second, and let's say I have to change something in my editing, something I did before I liquefied the image. Maybe get rid of the color correction because I don't like it anymore. And if I activate this layer again, those changes are gone obviously because my smart object still has the old merged content. I could create a new merged copy and start liquefying that again, or I could simply update the content of my smart object. And that's where the Update Smart Object preset comes in handy. Let's open the preset options. First, I can select if I want to update the smart object with a copy of all visible layers or all layers below this selected smart object. In this case, I'd have to select layers below. Otherwise, this look would be added as well and I would double the effect. So everything below my currently selected smart object will be merged and copied right inside that smart object, and the liquify filter, or whatever smart object or adjustments you've made to that smart object, will be applied on that updated version. Let's hit create, and then we get an error message that this layer is protected. So let's just unlock it, try again. And there you go. No color correction on this layer, but still liquefied. One more thing, the selected layer must be a smart object. Otherwise, you get an error message, please select the smart object. Let's take a look inside that smart object by double-clicking on it. And here we have the original layer, and above that is the updated version. As you can see in the layer settings, the name with timestamp in 24 hours format is active, meaning every time I update the smart object, you can reconstruct the date and time by the layer name. If something is unclear, make sure to visit the documentation for that preset. As usual, there's a help link in the info section, and this will direct you to our website where you can learn everything you need to know about that specific preset. One thing I forgot to explain, let's just open the new layer preset. If you want to select a tool preset and you go to a window, tool presets, let's select the brush and maybe just change a color to blue and create a new preset. And then you try to find this preset in this drop-down menu, you wouldn't see it. That's because the list with the tool preset loads when you enter the preset options. So just return, enter the preset options again, and there it is. Now you should be able to see it. If the presets are not enough or you want to add your own retouching actions you're familiar with, open the quick menu, and here you can add your own Photoshop actions or Photoshop scripts into the FX panel. Let me show you this quickly. Click on the action button. A new preset has been created, and in this dropdown we can firstly select the set, let's say FX Retouch, and in the dropdown below you can select an action from that set. Let's say Log Background. I'm just going to rename that. You could also add custom preview imager for that action preset, but I'm going to skip that. And when I go back to the list view and activate all presets, you see the log background layers already here, and if I apply the preset, the action will be played. The background layer was renamed and locked. Furthermore, you can create your custom sets. Let me show you this too. Hit the custom set button and let's create a new set. Let's say DOM's Retouching. And from this dropdown, I'm going to select the Retouching bundle and add every single preset. And also I would like to add my newly created action. If we go back, in the quick finder you now find a new set, DOM's Retouching, with 11 presets, and my log background action is right in here. Let's switch back to the set settings, and here you'll find a custom order. So I could rearrange the order of the preset. Let's say I want a new layer first, the log background second, maybe the check layer third, elongation here. And if I return back to the list view, you see that the presets have been rearranged. So if you want to create a step-by-step guide for your retouching process, that's the perfect way to go. Another very important thing is shortcuts. Let me open the panel settings one more time and enter the shortcuts section. We have both internal and global shortcuts. Internal shortcuts are shortcuts that work when the panel is selected. So let's say Command and arrow, hit Command and arrow, and now I can navigate through the panel and select a preset. Global shortcuts work a little bit differently. You see, we find them under File Scripts. So if I would go to File Scripts, here they are. And you see those shortcuts 1 to 5. That's exactly this part here. So let's just say my first custom shortcut should be a view of my newly created DOM's Retouching set in list view. My second shortcut could be a preset. Let's say Dodge and Burn layer. And you can also select a custom preset over here. Let's say Dedicated Empty Layer. And of course I could go to File, Script, and select the script here. This would open my custom set, but I'd rather prefer to create a shortcut for that. So open the Photoshop Shortcuts menu, navigate to File, Scripts. Here they are. So let me just use the function keys for my shortcuts. And you hear how Photoshop is trying to tell me that those shortcuts are already used by some other functions, but I don't care. I really do want my shortcuts to be on the function keys. Hit OK. And if I now press F1, my DOM's retouching set will be opened. If I hit F2, I can create my dodge and burn layers. Combining the FX panel with shortcuts can incredibly increase your efficiency and your workflow. You could add those function keys to your graphic tablet or any other device and really speed up your retouching. So much for the FX panel retouching bundle. If there are any questions, take a look at our detailed documentation page. Also, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Photoshop tutorials with and without the FX panel, and enjoy the retouching bundle.